Everybody, this is Tony from Class Eagles. Hope you're having a good day and your family and everyone's doing well again during this time. Good news is that it seems like we are beginning to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and soccer will be returning sometime soon. But with that in mind, something that I've been thinking about, just maybe in terms of, how my kids will transition back to school and what they'll be like. I started thinking about, how this might affect kids in ways that we're not really thinking about right now. In terms of returning back to the soccer field. So, if you think about it, if the kids, start playing again, in the fall, if they're able to, for a lot of them, it would be almost over 10 months, maybe a little bit more since the last time they've maybe had a team practice or played in a competitive game. And that's a long time, to go without playing, outside of, people who have significant injuries and things like that. Often that's not very common. Typically kids don't go that long in between seasons or times they're on the field with their friends. So, just like I guess, thinking about that, if you've had a serious injury and it's taken a long time to get back, it's a slow process. From a physical standpoint, mental standpoint, kind of getting back in the groove of the game takes some time. So I think we have to be prepared for our kids when they step back on the field in the fall. That you know things are going to look different. It might take a little bit longer for them to kind of get in the rhythm of the season and maybe look back to form as they did previous to this crisis hitting. Um, with that as well, I mean, there's so much time away from the game. I think from getting physically, mentally prepared, to play and compete is going to take time. This is a very, very long off season. So it's maybe not the safest thing to just jump right back into a competitive match without being physically, mentally prepared to do that for all players. So it's something to think about. This is going to be not just I've heard our governor in Ohio here say a lot of light switch that you turn back on. I think even for kids, it's going to be a process to get back onto the field. On top of that, it's been a long time since they've been around other kids, friends and things like that. Is there going to be apprehension, on their part in terms of how they interact with each other, making that contact, how close they get with each other, even if they're cleared to play. I think this could have lasting effects in terms of what that social interaction for them means to them, and how comfortable are they, making contact, and being that close to other people, whether it's their coach, or players in the field or other parents. I think it's going to look and feel a lot different for them once we get back on the field. So it's something to keep in mind. I think everyone will kind of get back to that mentality we had before with maybe some slight changes. But again, I would be prepared and start thinking about that the kids are going to not be maybe as comfortable as they were before this time of being on the field and playing. Our hope would be that's not the case, that they're just super excited, the whistle's about to blow and they're ready to go. But for a long time they've been told that this is what's going on, and this is why we've been away from everyone for so long, and when we get back, what will that look like for them? So things like that are things we're going to have to look at as kids come back to the game. So I think it's going to be even more responsibility on coaches, on parents, on clubs to really be paying attention to those things that might be different when we get back on the field, outside of the format of the game and anything that's adjusted in terms of everyone's health and safety. I think there's a mental side of this, and a toll that we'll also have to work through once we are back on the field and playing. So I think it's important that we start thinking about that. Maybe start having those conversations with your kids about are you excited to get back on the field and play? What do you think what it'll look like? Asking open-ended questions like that maybe start getting a sense of things they're thinking about. If there's any worries on their end, I'm sure no parent wants to be surprised when they ask if their kid wants to sign back up for soccer, and the answer is no. So there's a lot of things that come into play here. And the last thing too is I think kids, have, they've been trying to engage in the game, but also, during this time, have found other things to occupy their time. So a player's interest level, could have changed, over this time. Being away from something for 10 months, you know, they say, if you really love something, the absence makes the hearts grow fonder, and hopefully that's the case. But sometimes absence, it makes the heart focus on other things. So there's a chance kids aren't as passionate as they were before, taking this long break. So, there's just a lot of things to consider as we get back on the field, things to monitor and look at. I think everyone's excited to get back to playing, and hopefully that's the case. But, outside of, the health precautions we're probably going to have to take and how the game might look different, I think there's going to be a change in the player a little bit, and and maybe for everybody, coaches, parents, everyone, and how we look at the game, and how comfortable we feel in such situations, and we're going to have to work through that over time. So just wanted to talk about that. Start people having those conversations, start asking your kids, asking them those questions, so when we are given the green light to start playing again, we're maybe out ahead of that, and we're already thinking about how we can, not just technically and tactically help our kids get prepared for the game, but, help them, maybe get through some of maybe the physical or emotional, mental obstacles they might have as we get ready to get going again.